Hello and welcome. I am Skitatska and I'm back after a long time with a new fic, How a Paradox Saved the World by Emtress Bookworm. I am so very grateful that they allowed me to read this gem of a fic on my channel and definitely give it a read. The link to the original fic will be in the description. It is worth it, guys. So now on to the fic. How a Paradox Saved the World by Empress Bookworm. Summary.
Go save the world, Izuku.
It's been 11 years since Izuku first set foot to UA, and the country has fallen to Alpha 1, Shigaraki Tomura, and the Paranormal Liberation Front. So of course, rather than give up, Izuku and his ragtag group of rebels decide to break the space-time continuum instead in an attempt to fix things. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. Chapter 1, King's Gambit. Summary.
Go save the world, Izuku.
An end and a beginning. This indicates sign language. We have a problem, people. Wiretap came into the room, her brow furrowed. Rogue looked up from whatever the hell he was doing. What aside from the backs of Nomu ravaging the country? Wiretap glared at Rogue. Yes, actually. What's going on, Wiretap? He looked up from the vest he was mending. Wiretap bit her lip. Kill everyone else first. Okay. He got up and went to the nearest intercom, pressing the button. Everyone, please report to the main room. Wiretap has something to share. A chorus of assents came from the speaker, as did a sequence of staticky taps. He headed back to his seat and picked up the vest again. When everyone assembled, Wiretap strode into the center of the room. She glanced round at them, then huffed. So we have a problem. What kind of a problem? Izunami asked, tilting her head. Wiretap bit her lip again before speaking, and her words sent a chill down his spine. I was running our weekly check-in with the other bases, but all I heard was static. I mean, they might be having signal issues, Wright said optimistically. His almost shark-toothed smile on full display despite their less-than-ideal situation. Wiretap shook her head, one hand going up to the fiddle with her earphone jack. Well, the chances of all three of them having signal issues at the same time is minuscule, and I triple-checked our connection, and it's fine. Second, I tried multiple times, but none of them answered. Completely radio silence. That was extremely bad news, and could mean two things. One, the signal lines were down, which was a problem in itself, because it meant they wouldn't be able to communicate with the other resistant bases. The worst option was, of course... Does that mean we're the only ones left? Livewire asked, his brow furrowing. Wiretap nodded. I think so. A somber silence fell over their group. Then Wright spoke up again. So, this is it, then? It's just us now. Wright ran a hand through his hair. It needed to be re-dyed. It was almost totally black again, and sighed. Now what? A single sniff caught his attention, and he turned to see Kronos huddled up against the wall, almost totally hidden in the shadows. He held out a hand and beckoned her over. Kronos, what is wrong? She sniffed again and wiped her eyes. I'm only 17. She looked up at him, a single tear tracing a path down her face. I don't want to die. He set the vest aside and held out his arms, letting her rush him and bury her face in his shoulder. As she cried into his shoulder, he gently rubbed up and down her back. Then he glanced at the rest of his ragtag family. We can just give up, can we? But there's less than a dozen of us. Rogue said, sounding more defeated than he'd ever heard before. I'm not saying we should just give up, but what can we do? He jumped as Stark slammed her hand on the table, giving them all a familiar, intense stare. Ultimately, not much right now, Stark said, and her voice was unnaturally quiet. As things stand right now, we're outnumbered, low on supplies, and have no chance of winning or even striking any real blows against Alpharshit, Shigaraki, and their forces. Then, no, shut up, I'm not done. The thing is, it's too late for us. The only way we could possibly win this is if we had more people, or if Alpharshit and Shigaraki lost some of their power. Yeah, and we can't exactly do that, can we? Stark suddenly gave them all a maniac smile. Can't we? Of course we can't. Rogue stared at her, utterly incredulous. We'd have to go back in time or something. Exactly. He blinked twice. Then his eyes went wide and the pieces fell into place. Stark, are you suggesting we travel back in time? That's exactly what I'm suggesting, Deku. Stark grinned wildly at him. Then she went serious again. As we are now, we are doomed. Things have gone too far. We can't win against Alpharshit now. But if we can go back in time, then we can stop him before he ever rises to power. All of this, she gestured to the rundown bunker they called home, would never happen. But time travel is impossible, Piper signed, the dim fluorescent lights catching his dead eye and giving it an eerie glow. Stark's smile grew even more manic. That's the thing. I don't think it is. She started pacing around the cramped space, and he, Livewire, and Rogue automatically scooted back to give her some room. When I was a kid, I went through an obsessive sci-fi phase. I watched a ton, and I do mean a ton, of pre-work movies about time travel and stuff like that. And I tried to think of how I would make a time machine baby. But eventually, I figured it would be impossible without the aid of some kind of quirk. Then Stark whirled and beamed at Kronos, who had finally pulled her head away from his neck. Kronos, you have a temporal quirk. With your quirk, my genius, and some help from Izunami, we might be able to do it. Silence hung heavy over the group. Blank finally spoke up.
Stark, Do you think you can really put together a time machine?
Stark nodded, some of her mania fading. Blank sighed softly. Then it's worth the shot. It's better than lying belly up and waiting for our inevitable demise. Blank tapped his fingers on his prosthetic leg. We'll try one final gambit. We've done it! He and Livewire shot up so fast their heads banged together, and for a second the electricity crackled around them, both green of his own power and the yellow of Livewire's. Ouch! Why Kami? Stark! A little warning next time. Livewire whined as he rubbed the sore spot on his forehead. Stark waved him off and slapped several papers onto the table. We've done it! This time it clicked. He jumped to his feet, avoiding Livewire this time, and hurried to see the papers. You figured it out. I think we did! He scanned the papers, which were covered in sketches, equations, and a lot of technical jargon he didn't understand. Stark rolled them up and tapped him on the head with them. Now we can start building it, but we'll need some supplies, a lot of extra food, so Izanami can make it all. Noted. 2 weeks later, Stark called them to attention when they were sitting at dinner, aka sitting on the old crates and gnawing on various non-perishable foodstuffs they'd been able to scavenge. So, the time machine baby is about halfway done. It should be finished by next month. Although, we'll also need to test it. I'm getting off track. But we need to make a decision, namely, who's going to go back. It's probably the best if more than one person goes, both because it'll make easier to stop all for shit and because it'll provide support system. He glanced around at the rest of his family, who all had expression of dawning realization. Then Izanami sighed softly. Stark, Kronos, and I can go. We need to stay here with the machine. I'll stay back too, Wartap said immediately, leaning into Izanami's side. He wasn't particularly surprised by that. So will I, Rogue said, glancing away. My quirk is too useful here. He took a deep breath. I'll go. So will I, Piper added. Then the purple-haired man smiled grimly, the expression tugging at the scars on his face. It'll be nice to be useful again. You're already useful, Piper, he muttered, nudging Piper's shoulder. Still, he understood the sentiment. Ever since losing his voice, eye, and the use of his quirk, Piper had been struggling with a more limited role in the team, and it'd been frustrating beyond belief for the man. And you're a sweetheart, Deku. I'll go too. All eyes went to Livewire, who looked at them bashfully. I don't want to wait here when I could be doing something. And besides, Livewire looked up with a playful smirk. Deku here is too shy, and Piper is an antisocial gremlin, so you guys need at least one person who knows how to talk to people. That was a fair point, although that didn't stop him from being offended. I mean, it's true, but you shouldn't say it. At least Piper agreed with him. Riot, what about you? Riot fidgeted in place. I'll I think I stay behind. I'm the most resilient in the group. You'll need me more. Fair enough. Then Stark glanced over to Blank. What about you, Blank? Will you stay or go? Blank was silent for a moment, then closed his remaining eye.
I'll go. As a hero, I have access to more resources than you will. Besides, Kami knows you gremlins will need supervision.
Blank turned to Izunami.
When I leave, you're in charge.
Yes, Sensei. Blank chuckled.
I'm not your sensei anymore, Izunami.
You'll always be our sensei, though, Livewire said, though the serious tone was offset by the mischievous grin on his face. Blank rolled his eyes.
Gremlins, all of you.
Guilty. They all shared a laugh at that. Then Stark clapped her hands. All right, travelers. She reached behind her and pulled out a stack of notebooks. Each of you needs at least one of these. Why? Stark's face turned serious. Because I don't know if your memories will go back with you. The plan is to send you 16 years back, and if things work the way they're supposed to, then you'll be returned to the body you had at the time. The thing is, I don't know if your minds will regress as well. If they do, then you'll have no idea what happened and defeats the purpose. So the notebooks are so you can record things from this time, in case you forget everything. Timelines of events, analysis, description of the nomus, random memories, our names. All of you would need to carry out the mission, even without the memories themselves. And when you get back, you'll want a copy of them somewhere else. I don't know what will happen when you start changing things. There's a chance the text could erase itself. Oh. He accepted the notebook Stark handed him, running his fingers over the cover. With it in his hands, it suddenly felt much more real. We're really going back to the past. Today was the day. The machine was done, and after a battery of tests, Stark and Izunami were positive it would work. He, Piper, Livewire, and Blank had finished their journals, and they even managed to scrunch up some photos to bring along. Now, all that was left was to say goodbye, both to their family and to the underground bunker they'd called home for the past year. Never thought I'd want to stay in this place. Of course, that's when a hound howled, close enough to be audible, which meant they were too close. Stark jumped, then swore. We'd better hurry. Get in position, you four. He grabbed the bag containing his notebooks and scurried over to the machine. Kronos was already strapped in, ready to boot it up. Piper, Blank, and Livewire hurried over and stood beside him, while the rest of their family assembled before them. Then Riot lunged forward. I'm going to miss you guys. He reciprocated the hug, and moments later felt the rest of his family converging on them. Then, much too soon, Stark drew back, quickly running an arm across her eyes. All right, let's get this baby running. Bang.
Open up!
Wiretap swore, her jacks lifting in the direction of the stairs. They've got a pack of hounds and a titan with them. Shit. Wright slammed his fists together. I'll go brace the door. I'm coming with you. Rogue tapped Wright's shoulder and copied his quirk. Then Rogue glanced at them all, his face unusually open. Good luck, guys. Then the two disappeared up to the stairs as another bang echoed through the bunker. Wireta fidgeted in place, then sighed. "I'll better go help too." She pressed a quick kisses to each of their cheeks. "Be safe, you far." Then she was gone. Izunami hurried to the panel of switches and started flipping them. With a hum, the inside of the machine began to glow. "It'll take about 5 minutes to finish putting up." Then a third bang ran through the building, followed by the sound of metal hitting the floor. Stark cursed again. "Come on, hurry up!" The buzzing of the machine behind them continued to grow in intensity, as did the sound of fighting above. Then they heard a strangled shout from Riot, and the mood dropped even further. Livewire swallowed, then tossed his back to the floor. "I'm going to hell. With any luck, I'll be back in time to go, but if not..." He showed them a familiar thumbs up. "Go kick all 4 shits ass in the past for me, okay?" Piper dropped his bag as well. "I'll come too. I may not have my quirk anymore, but I still have my scarf, and it sounds like they'll need all the help they can get. I'll guard the passage." Then Piper pulled him into another hug. "Good luck." Piper's voice was a raspy whisper, barely there at all, but it was the first time he'd spoken since his injury. Tears prickled his eyes, and he returned the embrace fiercely. "Good luck, Piper." Piper squeezed one last time before stepping out with Livewire, his capture scarf already flaring. He did his best to memorize the image before they disappeared. "1 more minute and we're ready to go. Step in now." He picked up his brother's bag and stepped into the machine, Blank at his heels. Blood was beginning to stream from Kronos' nose impulsively. He dropped the bag and stepped out, squeezing her in a tight hug. She smiled into his neck. "Love you, Dekuni." "Love you too, Kronos." He kissed the top of her head and went back into the machine. The light surrounding them was almost blinding now. Then the sound of crackling wood echoed through the bunker, followed by swearing from Livewire. Blank glanced at the door, then sighed. The older man lifted his bag over his shoulder and handed it to him. Immediately he knew what Blank was doing. "Blank!"
They need help, Gremlin.
Blank fished under his shirt for a moment, and pulled out a gold chain holding 2 familiar wedding rings. One still stained with blood. The man took his hand and closed it around the chain.
Take these to remember me by, and to provide some authenticity to your story. Remember, when the past me caused you problem, child, he trusts and cares about you.
Then Blank knelt and hugged him tight.
Go save the world, Izuku.
The sound of his name made the tears in his eyes overflow, and he hugged back as hard as he could. Then Blank pulled away and stepped out of the machine, turning to Stark and Izunami.
Get him back there safely.
"We will." Stark looked more serious than he'd ever seen her. Blank nodded once and left the room without looking back. He wiped his eyes roughly and turned to Stark, shoving the rings into his own bag and making sure he had a tight grip on the others. "How much longer?" 10 seconds. 9, 8... Another crash rang through the building, and the earthen walls began to crack. Star cursed and glanced at the readout. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Izanami pulled a lever, and electricity crackled around him. The machine's door slammed shut and sealed tight as the light started getting even brighter, and the temperature started to rise. Before long, it was all he could do to keep his eyes open. The last thing he saw, before he had to shut his eyes, was Stark pressing a giant red button as the door to the room was flung open. Then the light became blinding, and he closed his eyes against it. There was a flash of heat. Then nothing. Note: after the last set of time skips, the team prepares to go back in time, but the raiding party finds their base, and the non-travelers will go to help. Then the travelers, except for Izuku of course, go to help as well, and Izuku is left to return on his own. That is for the first chapter. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll be back with the next part soon.